What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to another video. So in my last video, I introduced Ryan with Sparrowhawk Mobile Detailing. And I told you we're going to be doing a mini series. Now we're going to kick it off with the most fundamental thing, which is how to wash a boat for beginners.
Sure.
So a lot of people, they maybe just got their first boat.
Sure.
And unlike a car, there are some minor differences that you have to take into account when you're washing gel coat and just taking care of a boat in general.
Absolutely.
And so what we want to do is learn how to properly do that. So what would be the very first step that you'd recommend a beginner to pay attention to?
The very first step, you just bought your boat, you pulled it out of the water,
yeah.
It's in the driveway, You've got your hose, you've got your bucket. Okay, there's different ways you can go about it.
Yep.
So you essentially want to take as much care as you can of the boat without harming it. So you don't want any high alkalinity soaps, something that's going to harm the substrate. So you want to stay away from Dawn, Palmolive, anything that you'd find under the sink. So those are really good cleaning soaps.
Right.
They do their job.
Yeah, too
so
good.
Any protection that you have on the boat, whether it's the dealership or you applied before, it's going to be gone.
Okay.
Because it's a degreaser, it attacks any protection and grease, polish, anything like that, it's going to eliminate it. So.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's the thing, guys. I've seen a lot of people wash their boat with Dawn and bleach. I mean, a matter of fact, I know guys that religiously do that because, as we've stated before, when you get blood and scales on the boat, it's very difficult to get them off. And you start mixing Dawn and bleach, and oh my God, you ain't gonna have anything left on it, at least protection-wise.
Sure.
So, is there a specific type of soap that you would recommend?
Typically, your automotive soaps are fine. Everybody
Okay.
thinks you need a specially formulated soap for marine, for boats.
Right.
I truly believe you don't.
Okay.
So long as it's automotive specific. Everything in your automotive
Yep.
department will do the job. Some are better than others. It
Okay.
depends on how boutique and
Yeah.
fancy you want to get with your soaps,
And
of
how
course.
much money you want to spend?
Exactly, sure. So, but they do their job.
Yeah.
So a higher-end soap that costs more is not always the best, but
Okay.
it is going to be safe.
Yeah, and-
So that's when you read the back of your product and know what you're using, really.
Yeah.
Really just stick to heavy suds. You want a lot of lubricity when you're using your soap. So
I
that's
like
the
that.
most important. You want suds and suds and suds. Less contact you have between the mitt and the surface, the better. The less inducing of scratches they're going to be, marring, things of that nature.
Okay, well that's good. So step number 2, what do you recommend? Like, so if they were to break it down from that point on, so we know what not to use and what
Sure.
to use. If you were to just start to wash the boat, what would your preparation look like?
So I have my good soap. I have my wash mitt. We're not using bristles or any type of brushes. Some are nicer than others. Again, a bristle brush is pretty much always going to scratch. Because of the pressure you're putting on the surface from that pull and those bristles,
Yeah.
you're inducing marring. So we always say wash by hand, just a regular wash mitt, like you would use for your car, is just fine.
Okay.
So you're not going to be doing heavy scrubbing, low marring. Again, you want as least pressure as you can, just easy cleaning. Let the suds do the work.
Okay. And so from that point on, you would pre-treat the boat? Would you say that would be step number 3 or even 2?
If it's really dirty, you can. Again, you need to be careful with what pre-treats you're working with. Here at the shop, we have it dialed in, so it's not really too much of a thought on what to grab and how to degrease. We know it's going to be safe. We know there's dwell time. It's not going to etch any of the instrument screens or your cloth in your seats. A lot of those things that will harm the surfaces.
Yeah, that's a very real thing, guys. You know, you got the vinyl, you got things like that. You spray a chemical and you let it sit for too long.
Sure.
And the next thing you know, you got a little bit of a situation.
Especially doing it outside.
Yeah,
in
the sun.
Dries anything fast.
You know, another thing, for you guys that are just getting off the water and, you got blood baked in with scales and things like that, and say they don't want to hand wash it.
Sure.
What would be a good option to do a quick treat on that boat without damaging it and also removing some of those things?
Hand wash it.
Yeah.
Hand wash the boat. You're really not going to save any time, whether it's a brush or by hand.
Yeah.
So again, if a brush is only going to get in so many places, so even at the end of the day, it's been a 12-hour day.
Yeah.
You don't want to pull out a mitt and get under everything.
Yep.
You're still going to be more efficient with the hand mitt
Yep.
as you are, as with the brush, and it's not going to save you any time. So just use the mitt. At that point, it comes down to your protection.
Yeah.
That's after the wash process.
Well, so I think, guys, that that answers at least some of your fundamental questions. Now, once you go in and you scrub all of the surfaces down real good, do you let that sit, or how does that work?
A day like today, I can pre-treat and let my products do their thing. It's not very sunny out. We have good overcast. So the more dwell time, the better. Let that product sit. Let the product in the cleaner do its job. You shouldn't have to put a ton of elbow grease with the right cleaner and the right amount of dwell time. If you have to hit it with a little water as you're going to keep it from drying up, that's going to be super important. If your soap does dry and you are in the sun, it's not the end of the world. You just need to wash that surface again and keep going. So it's important to rinse as you go, especially if it's going to be a sunny day.
Yeah, and that'll help with your water spots and things too.
Sure.
Now, what about, so obviously the very last step, or step number 4, would be to essentially rinse. Now, what if you have well water or hard water? What is a solution to get by that, or is there?
Dry the boat.
Just dry it quickly.
A leaf blower is always best because there's a lot of nooks and crannies. You have your rub rails, screws, things of that nature that hard water is going to sit in. So if you are dealing with hard water, the best thing is forced air, leaf blower, preferably battery op that you have in a bay.
Okay.
And when you get out of the water, you just blow out all your cracks and crevices and dry it.
And a lot of you might be thinking, well, we can't really do that, because when I blow on it, it really doesn't do anything for the water spots. But I think what you're missing is that you've never had your boat ceramic coated. And that's what we're talking about today. Once Ryan, and obviously I'm getting ahead of myself, but once he adds this ceramic coat, blowing it off is super easy and simple. So it's really not too hard, and it works very efficiently once you have the right product on the boat. All right, here's a couple just bonus questions, guys, that I wanted to ask, and I'm sure Ryan can give you some feedback because I'm curious about them. I personally don't like using a pressure washer on my boat because I feel like it damages the non-skid over time, and obviously pressure washing anything can damage it.
Sure.
What is your thoughts on that?
So with us, we use a pressure washer, but we use it the correct way.
Yeah.
So we're not using pressure to clean the surface like the non-skid that you're talking about. We're not getting real close with a narrow tip and trying to pull the scale and blood off of the non-skid. We use it strictly for speed, and because we are mobile, it's a lot easier. We have low PSI as well, so with your pressure washer, wide tip, so I can get that as close to my skin and I'm not going to puncture it.
It doesn't hurt it at all.
So there are pressure washers with high PSI, and you get real close and you are going to damage that non-skid or anything else that you hit.
And I've seen this. I've seen where people are washing their boat and they got that thing 2 inches from the ground.
Sure.
And I mean, I'm like, oh.
Especially with your vinyl.
Yeah.
That's going to be extremely important. Right, all your edges and your corners. High pressure in those, you're going to peel that right off.
Peel it off. Absolutely. You want to be cognizant of that. I personally, I told Chris, I'm going to stop with the pressure washer. We haven't been using it on my boat just because I don't want any mistakes. And, I find that if you keep on top of it, keep the product on the boat, and I don't even have it ceramic coated, then, she stays clean and I'm not damaging her. So. All right, so another bonus question. So I know a lot of people, they spray their dash even with a pressure washer and they get their electronics wet, and ultimately what I notice it does if you do that is the water and the salt combine and they fall into the buttons and ultimately cause problems with pushing and turning on and off the unit like the Garmin and things. What are some ways to properly clean around those electronics?
So when we wet wash, whether it's a regular hose or a pressure washer, we really don't use water anywhere near the screens and your your wheels. So we have rinseless wash solutions that'll do that. Not that I think it's a boat, it's going to get wet, screens are going to get wet, you're going to splash, it's going to happen. So but we try to induce water as least possible, especially around screens and buttons. You just don't want them sitting in the cracks and crevices. The better we can do to protect your investment in your screens, that's what we're going to do.
Essentially, you want to limit your water exposure as much as possible. I mean, you have the elements like the rains and the hose and obviously the salt spray, but limiting the water exposure to electronics is only going to be beneficial. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed these tips. Hey, these are tips from a professional. This is something that you can definitely do, but again, Sparrow Hawk Ryan here is mobile. So if you ever just don't feel like washing your boat and you don't want to deal with it, I'm sure they can call you and you can handle it.
Absolutely. We can definitely come out to your location.
Yeah.
Whether it's the marina or your backyard or the street, we can handle it.
You gotta love the mobile convenience factor in that. Guys, make sure if you like this video, you give a thumbs up, comment below, and subscribe. And listen, stay tuned. This is a little series. We're gonna be going into some other parts of cleaning your boat, and I think you don't wanna miss it. This will be such as ceramic coating. What are some of the other things we're gonna talk about?
Just protection for your boat.
Protection.
And how easy it can be to maintain your boat.
Yeah, and then obviously the removal of oxidation off a gel coat.
Oxidation removal, some sanding.
So these things are going to be pretty cool, guys. If you want to know how to do it properly, stay tuned. Give a thumbs up. Let's go. Till next time.